Hello and welcome to the Tech Remedy podcast. I'm Jamie and I'm passionate about seeing businesses win using technology. In each episode, we'll talk to industry experts or business owners just like you. We'll uncover how technology has been used in the real world. Don't forget to subscribe and follow me on LinkedIn for more insight and content to come. So Nathan, welcome to the Tech Remedy podcast.
Thanks for having me, Jamie.
For a little bit of background, you started ClearAim in 2016, which is a dynamics consultancy and sort of agency. And more recently, we've partnered together for a new company called Dynamics 365 Cloud, which is also a bit of a dynamics house. And we'll get onto what dynamics is and that kind of stuff in a minute. But can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you got started in the world of tech and dynamics, I guess?
Yeah. So again, thanks for having me. And it's a pleasure to be partnering on Dynamics 365 Cloud. In 2009, just coming out of university, I naively signed a 12-month tenancy contract to live with my friends, having sold the dream, and realized I didn't have a job. And how am I going to pay for my rent? And I applied for multiple different jobs. I did computer science in university, so it was always going to be computer orientated. And this company called Crimson Consultants, they took me on, and they were a Dynamics house at the time. Dynamics 365 or CRM as it was known back then was in its infancy. It was version 3.0, 4.0.
Right.
And Gary Williams and Lee Parton, who I owe a lot to, in terms of giving me a break in the dynamics world. They took me on board, started there as a developer, quickly learned that I have not got development skills.
Right.
I'm much more of a consultant, so moved into consultancy and then moved through a number of partners through the years, a number of gold partners and then end-to-end implementations. Then in 2015-16, had the opportunity with quite an inspirational gentleman called David Nandra, in London. They were running a Salesforce consultancy called Hyphenate, and they wanted to expand to Dynamics as well. And that went really well. We aligned on our values. It was really, really positive, but they ultimately decided that Dynamics wasn't for them. They wanted to stick with Salesforce. And I had the option then to break out into my own consultancy with ready-made customers, very lucky. And off we went. So started that in 2016.
Yeah.
Still going strong now. Have over 100 Dynamics implementations under our belts, a lot of Microsoft certifications and all that gubbins that validates who I really am, until today.
Yeah, and you're obviously based in Wales. Like, we haven't mentioned that yet, but I imagine listeners probably would work that out.
Probably comes across. Based down in South Wales in Swansea.
Yeah.
Would never leave Swansea.
Okay.
Like traveling up to Leeds. Leeds is lovely. Prefer the north, the south.
Yeah.
But yeah, Swansea is where we live.
Yeah. Perfect. So obviously we've known each other probably about a year now. Like you say, we've worked on some sort of co-managed projects and now transitioned to be partnered up in a fully fledged Dynamics agency of our own. Probably for people listening that might not know what Dynamics is or might have heard the term ERP, which gets used a lot. Can you give us a little bit of a background into what you think people should sort of understand an ERP or what Dynamics essentially is?
Yeah, absolutely. So the IT sector industry is full of jargon, acronyms, letters, just definitions that really baffle a lot of people. CRM or Dynamics 365 or whatever you want to call it is just your customer management system. ERP then is effectively your business platform. Yeah. So you ERP, which is enterprise resource planning, all the nonsense you don't want to hear. It's just the underlying platforms that really run your business on a day-to-day basis. And what you normally have, or what we see in our ecosystem, is a CRM platform, which is your sales, your marketing, your customer service, and then a finance and HR or operation platform. Now, ERP intends to combine all of that into like one common layer, as such. So centralization of data, that type of thing. And where businesses historically had multiple different applications or platforms for, like, for example, one for HR, one for marketing, one for time management, one for finance. Well, an ERP platform is intended to combine all those apps into one common place for those people to log in and access their business area.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's funny, I was in a meeting yesterday and there was a jar of biscuits on the table and we were talking about dynamics and how the fact it layered all the different business operations and departments in one system. And we used the analogy of the jar and the biscuits in it as the data, but everybody sat in different seats around the meeting table were the different departments, but they would all reach in and not necessarily eat the biscuits, but the data was manipulated by them sat around this table, but they were all looking at that same jar and data set in effect.
Yeah.
Which I think was a really good analogy for that layer and the way that ERPs work.
Yeah, it ultimately is the jar that contains all of the functions and processes. Like, not to be too technical, what pains me now is when you hear of users having to duplicate entry into systems, jump from Excel into this platform, into that platform, when really there are platforms out there that are pretty much plug and play that combine all of your standard BAU business processes.
Yeah.
So you put a Dynamics platform in, like for example, CRM, right? You hear of CRM. Well, Dynamics used to be Microsoft Dynamics CRM. It's now Microsoft Dynamics 365. 365 has all the applications that really an SMB business up to enterprise would require. A sales module for managing your pipeline and your accounts and your pre-sales and your post-sale stuff, customer service modules, marketing modules to combine all those, finance modules around Business Central, project service modules, field service modules. Really, unfortunately, because I'm a bit of a technophobe, although I'm working in the industry, really there's an application for absolutely everything now on Dynamics 365.
Yeah, so you can essentially go to one system and it'll cater for all the business needs in one way or another, is kind of what we're saying.
What what you need to be careful of there is promising that, because it's really easy to go into a business and say, do you know what, Dynamics 365 is gonna provide all of these benefits.
Yeah,
it can if you implement it correctly. One of the problems that we find with a lot of businesses is they go, oh, we need a CRM system. Great. Well, what does that actually mean to you? Oh, we need account management, or we need this, that, and the other. Well, if you are going to portray the picture that you want one platform for all, well, you've got to have top down and bottom up buy-in, and you've got to have the internal capability to manage it and implement it, and you've got to have a good partner who kind of knows what they're doing, had their fingers burned a few times, and ultimately you need the people and the processes to be maintained on a daily basis. Otherwise, the platform falls down.
Yeah. I think with everything tech related is essentially you get that buy-in from people, and top down is the way to sort of portray that you're practicing what you preach, I think, as well, isn't it? So just on that then, if you're a business and you think that's the future and where you want to move to a platform like a Dynamics, we did an episode about Salesforce, which was a similar kind of, I guess, vibe. What would be a telltale sign of some business pains and problems you'd have that would be a trigger for starting to look at a platform like Dynamics?
People in the Dynamics industry are going to shoot me for this answer, because it's the same answer as it was 10 years ago. But really, most businesses we come across, and we've come across ones this week, that are still having siloed, disparate offline systems, on-prem systems that require VPNs, duplicate entry, duplicate customer data, lack of transparency, lack of process. Well, immediately, and this isn't upselling the platform, this is just a standard core benefit of any CRM platform. Immediately, you have one platform that has a 360 perspective of the customer, so you've got one single source of data truth. Yep. So if you want to know who was that, what was the latest interaction with that customer, it's in there, it's real. You have your integrations with Outlook and all that, because everybody uses it for email. Your deduplication, remove having to put it into system X, Y, and Z. Right, platforms are built now that if they don't have that integrated functionality within the app, well, they have something called APIs, don't want to be too technical, effectively a door into and out of that system that you can just talk to your other systems. It baffles me, not kills me, but baffles me in 2024 that we are still talking to businesses who don't have effectively these core processes and functions that facilitate their business working efficiently.
Yeah. I think a lot is to do with the education piece, isn't it? People they start off, I don't think anyone goes out to create all these really complex siloed systems, but you're building a business and you're learning to fly it as you grow, in a sense. And I think people buy something that fits the need there and then, they'll move to something else, or they'll add on an extra bit, and before you know it, you're 5 years down the line and all this stuff is just all over the place. And up until recently, when what's the term? Data is the new oil, or data is the new gold. Until this has really been pushed, people are just happy creating all this massive data with no real structure or maintenance.
Or strategy.
Yeah.
But what you've also got, you've got to put the human element into it. Okay, so if we are building a business, or I'm speaking to Mr. or Mrs. X who are building a business, and they look at a CRM platform and go, well, that's a 4-figure or 5-figure investment. Well, if you're a growing business, you might not have that money. So you look at the Excels of the world, you look at the back of a fag packet, right? Really, you're going to do whatever you can do on a cost-effective basis to build that business.
Yeah.
It takes somebody with a good vision, with a good strategy, at some point in that journey to then go, right, we now need a centralized digital platform. We now need centralization of data. We now need more of a strategy, because by hook or by crook over the last couple of months or years, we've built enough to now facilitate or justify a centralized technology platform. What you find more often than not, though, is that businesses will continue down the route of their essentially free of charge software, yet complain about the fact of having to duplicate entry into multiple systems and not having the flexibility and the automation and, dare I say it, the AI capabilities of what these platforms provide.
Yeah. So a couple of quick bits then. In terms of, like you say, it has to be a commercial fit, something like Dynamics or even a Salesforce, something that is quite scalable and of an ERP stature is going to come with a cost. Not just in development, but in terms of ongoing licensing and things like that. Obviously, I think we're both of the vision and the feel that once you put it in, you'll get that return back. But for certain companies and sizes, maybe, or infancies, maybe it doesn't fit. Is there a size where you think there's a sweet spot maybe for adopting a platform like Dynamics?
I think where I typically start is just to understand that business pain points. So it's a very difficult conversation. Now, I've had the consultancy running for 8 years, right? And total transparency, in the first couple of years, we'd take on as many projects as we could to be able to build the business. And really, that was very short-sighted, because in the longer term, those customers probably didn't justify needing a CRM system.
Okay.
Now, over the years, what we've learned is that really you're going to maintain a longer-term relationship with that customer if there is short, medium, and long-term ROI of that platform. Loads of like corporate mumbo jumbo in that sentence, but really what I'm talking about is that if you're going to invest 4, 5, 6 figures into a digital platform, you're going to want to see quite quick returns, whether that's time saving, whether that's lead pipeline increases, whatever your metric is to measure your success. But you've got to be clear and transparent with that with your customer. Because if you go to a customer and say, or a customer even comes to you and says, we want a CRM system, and you just say, yeah, fine, you've got nothing to measure the success of that. So it's super important, I believe, to be transparent with your customer up front and say, well, why? What are you looking to solve? What business pains, what business problems are you looking to solve? Because if you haven't got a clue about that, then you haven't got a clue about what the implementation is going to look like.
Yeah. I think transparency is a key value that we both share through Clearim, Everon, and obviously now Dynamics 365 Cloud. So that makes sense. I think sometimes people don't always step back and see the bigger picture, do they? Like you might have somebody that's using an Excel spreadsheet who is lower level than the C-suite, and they don't really have enough communication to understand all the pain that's causing that business. How do you, I guess, get a flavor or an understanding of what areas of a business that a solution like this could impact most? Is there a way of internal questionnaires? Is the gut feel? Is it you need a consultant? What would be your advice on that sort of stuff?
Combination of all of that. And then just the human element. So there are consistencies. When we go into any business, multiple different sectors, they'll say, oh, our sales process is unique, or our marketing process, or our customer service process is unique. That's why we've got so many customers, blah, blah, blah. The reality is the majority of the process patterns are consistent across all sectors. So really, you need to be speaking to the end user. You need to be speaking to the key users and identifying what are you struggling with. Yeah, Excel might be incredibly flexible, but you know that pre-Excel process and that post-Excel process, is that a pain in the ass? Because if it is, well, that's where the pain point is for you. So let's address that. There is a balance, because everybody loves a moan. And that's the reality of putting these systems in. Everybody loves a moan. This doesn't work, that doesn't work. So you can't fix everybody's problems.
Yeah.
But by speaking and by interacting and investing yourself into that business to understand their process, understand their people, you're really going to be able to get a feel of, is this going to benefit them? Can I justify a CRM system? Can we deliver ROI? And if you can't, my advice would be just shake hands, have a cuddle, and walk away, because it's going to bite you in the ass later down the line.
So I think along those lines, then you've obviously mentioned with Clearim that you've been going for 8 years, and you've got clients that you still have since day one, and you've grown together to learn those processes and be integral to their businesses. Should people view something like an ERP or a Dynamics integration and deployment as a long-term, forever partnership of continual improvement, or is it a case of we can reach a milestone and then it'll sort of manage itself almost?
I think so. The way the applications are built now, there has to be a level of autonomy internally within that business, because you can't be going to your partner for every little change. It's just not economically feasible. So the platforms are now low code, no code type of stuff.
Yeah.
So you'll have an internal level of capability through your implementation. If you're working with a good partner, they should be training you up to allow you to have some sort of autonomy internally. But the implementation of your digital platform, you have to see as a roadmap. So many customers either overcomplicate their first phase, they don't have the long-term vision, they don't have the long-term strategy, and it's the job of a consultancy, it's the job of somebody who's passionate about this platform and this technology to be able to help them identify that, not overcomplicate a phase one, because that's where typically you have your biggest dropout of adoption. That's when users go, don't like it, they weren't appropriately trained, it's too complex, it's whatever the reason is. But it has to be a strategy. It can't be in you go, we're not going to touch it for 10 years, it's just going to work. You may, and I'm not qualified to say this, but my opinion is you may be able to do that with a finance system, because ultimately you can map out the processes of a finance system.
Yeah.
But like me, in my evolution as a person, as a professional, socially and professionally, the platform will change, or should change, along with your business changing.
Yeah.
The way you do sales now will change in 5 years' time, and it's changed from 5 years ago. The way you do marketing and customer service, the way you want to market to your people, it's all going to change continuously. So you need a platform and a vision that aligns and understands that.
Yeah. Okay. So I think that is an ideal kind of point of differentiating an ERP from a traditional stack of software, that it can flex, grow, adapt as your needs change. For people that maybe are a little bit aware of some of the Dynamics Business Central, which kind of not talked about, but you got into a little bit there with the number side of things, can you just quickly explain Business Central is part of, I guess, that world, but sits slightly outside of Dynamics, and what the differences are and where you'd maybe go and use Business Central versus where you'd go and use a Dynamics style product?
The easiest differential is just Business Central is your finance platform, Dynamics 365 is your operational platform. That is, or process-based platform, because anytime we use Business Central, we have some great Business Central partners, but I'm scared of finance. I'm scared because it bores me, but I'm also scared because of its intricacies and I don't want to get it wrong. So Business Central would always just fall in the bracket of your finance platform. It has some wonderful extensions. It has a wonderful inbuilt capability that I'm unaware of. But what I am more of an expert on is the Dynamics 365 platform. So you look at the out-of-the-box modules there for sales, marketing, customer service, field service, project service, HR. They have all inbuilt processes and methodologies that align to that department for that system. What then becomes a sweet spot is when you have a customer who say, well, we want an ERP platform, which is essentially, if you want to simplify it, CRM plus finance, or 365 plus BC, if you're aligned to the Microsoft platform. Hope you're taking note, Microsoft. And really, then we can just, through a lot of investment from the provider, Microsoft, and through our expertise, you integrate the systems seamlessly. So, for example, from inquiry through to invoicing the customer, that's all done in one platform. And then you go then from a sales, marketing, customer service, whatever, you go into that customer's record within that one platform, and you see everything that they've ever interacted you with on communication-based, process-based, documentation-based. And then that would be the sweet spot of an ERP implementation, really.
So I want to just get a couple of your favorite projects that you've worked on. But I think just finishing on that last point of everything being in one system, everybody being able to access it, I think it's going to become more important over the next few years. We've hit this demographic now in society here in the UK, haven't we, where baby boomers are all starting to retire. And you've got the biggest change, I guess, in power, some people might call it, but of the change of the guard and handing the baton. If traditionally companies have all knowledge locked away in these owners that are leaving and retiring right now, in their systems that they used to have, is going to get lost in the next few years when they retire. If you have a system implemented like Dynamics, where you've no longer got one person who stores all that knowledge in the head or knows exactly how it works, you can adapt to changing roles and people leaving because you can just keep using the system in the way it's been designed.
Well, it's the old adage, if X gets hit by a bus.
Yeah.
A bit morbid, but the reality is there's quite a bit of resistance amongst every market really, to impart that knowledge and logic into a system, because very frequently, and you have this from C-suite down to an end user, they think, if I release this process or logic, my job becomes redundant. Well, that's not true. Most often than not, it's not true unless you've got a brutal CEO. But what it allows you to do, it allows you to become more efficient on that business and realign your priorities and responsibilities to really benefit in that business rather than doing the repetitive, time-consuming, inefficient tasks. So I don't know where I'm going with this now. But
so I think...
Go on.
That's probably a good intro for AI as well, isn't it? So we're talking about maybe people that are hesitant to feel like they're going to be replaced or not impart knowledge into a system, but AI's almost got that same set of fears as well, hasn't it?
Oh, this is the hot topic at the minute, and I really don't like it because AI is the future, inevitably. But as I said a couple of minutes ago, we're still talking about implementing CRM systems with the same pain points of 10 years ago.
Yeah.
We have a number of customers. There are businesses up and down the UK who have simply not adopted cloud computing, let alone AI.
Yeah.
And the reality of AI is you see the poster boys, you see the wonderful images, you see everything looking fantastic, but how many people have the knowledge to implement it, support it, actually within a business, implement it outside of having a partner? It's wonderful technology. And we've done projects on AI where we've integrated with ChatGPT. We've taken Teams transcripts and prompted ChatGPT for the outputs of document generation, stupid stuff, crazy stuff. But the reality is most businesses are not set up to understand this yet. And you need to have underlying platforms correct. You need to have processes correct. You need to have your data correct. Because if you think of AI as effectively what you input, or the accuracy of your input is going to dictate your output. Well, if your input's crap, your output's going to be crap.
Yeah.
So the blue sky world that's being painted for AI right now, I don't think really will be understood or appropriate for another 5 to 10 years.
Yeah. So I think garbage in, garbage out is one of the sayings, isn't it? I think this whole conversation around dynamics, ERPs, centralized data, is the foundation you need to have in place and understand before you're looking at applying AI to really maximize what you want. I feel like the difference between something like Dynamics and AI, though, is that AI is sexy. It's in the media, it's in the news, it's shiny, whereas the mundane bit of putting all your data together, cleansing it, making sure you've just got one source of truth is a bit of a tedious task, isn't it? And I think the companies that will win and will take bigger leaps moving forwards in the future will be the ones that do that first and then apply AI afterwards. So I think that's valid. So in terms of Microsoft obviously have Copilot. Copilot will fit in with the Dynamics suite and apps. Essentially how it works, I don't know is it like an agent? It won't work with your normal. Is it done transactionally?
To keep it simple, it's like an agent, right?
Okay.
But it has multiple different uses, and it is very beneficial. But transparently, every customer that we've engaged with since Copilot's come out and integrated with Dynamics 365, will you turn off that bloody Copilot for us, please?
Right. Okay.
It's doing our heads in. It's auto-filling the data. Now, that's a lack of knowledge. This is for me, the catalyst for this conversation is a complete lack of knowledge. The AI model, the AI process, the AI bubble is moving so quickly. How could you expect any average Joe to have the knowledge to be able to say AI will benefit us? Now, you can evidence how Copilot and these different AI agents can benefit a business really quickly. There's one in Dynamics right now, not to be too technical, but in Dynamics, you have the concept of one customer record. And against that customer record, you have all of their integrated emails, their email history, their appointment history, their Teams history, when you've been out to see them, etc. Now, one of the really good things Copilot does is it could be hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of email threads. It takes those email threads and summarizes them within Dynamics. So without having to go through emails, it's great that number one, you've ticked the box that you have customer history, but going through 400 emails just to find out the look and feel of that customer can be time consuming. So one of the things Copilot does now is it summarizes that whole thread, and it could have been phone calls, it could have been appointments, it could have been emails and escalations, and it's very accurate in its summary. So there is a business benefit immediately.
Yeah.
But the practical, realistic side of it is customers are telling us to turn it off.
Right.
Because they're not to grips with it yet.
Yeah.
So my advice, and certainly being a complete AI novice, would be that really understand it. Understand what that product or the AI model is going to do for you and your business. Understand its intricacies so that you can at least interrogate it.
Yeah.
And then do some proof of concepts around it. But the benefits of AI are substantial. It's just, for me, diluted by the fact that it's over complex and it's moving very quickly.
It's funny, the Salesforce chat we had a few weeks back on the podcast, Jeff, who ran a Mint agency in Salesforce, had virtually the same answer of, be aware of AI, be aware of what it can do and educate yourself on it. But right now, it's not going to deliver meaningful benefit.
If that was a Salesforce perspective on it, I naturally have to disagree completely with them. but for me, it's true. Like, I'm just authentic. AI is too quick. It's like Business Central. It's like the finance platform. It's a huge beast that right now I don't have the time and resource to be investing in its full knowledge capability. So I stay away from it. So I'm uneducated to answer that question. I can see its benefits, but if a Microsoft partner, and I am a technology enthusiast from a Dynamics 365 perspective, if I'm not willing to invest the time and effort into upskilling and be able to implement it, then your end customer who are having it thrust upon them, who have got a million and other one jobs to do, where are they going to find the time?
Yeah. It's hard because it's the big buzzword at the minute right now. And there are definitely benefits. I think I'm more optimistic than maybe yourself. But I do see the underlying flaw that people want really complex things that AI can deliver if you've got all the foundation right, but they've not done any of the foundation.
And that really is it. If you're what's not marketable, I think you used the word sexy earlier. AI is sexy because you have the 30-second YouTube tidbit that makes it look brilliant. What is not marketed in that sense is the prerequisite requirements to facilitate the AI working.
Yeah.
But if you've got all that aligned, AI can be a wonderful tool. But how many companies, and for everybody listening to this, you yourself and anybody else, how many companies do you know have actually got their entire organization in order, have got their entire data structure in order, entire processes in order? You know, they're not the majority, they're the minority.
Yeah.
So you layer AI over the top of those and fine, they're going to get business benefit really quickly. But you layer it over the realistic businesses, it'll just fall apart.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a very few finite amount of people that have gone and done everything. And I think even when you have got everything in order, as you said earlier, business change, need change, it's a continual task to keep it maintained and up to standard. So can we sort of touched on it earlier, but I never came back to it. Can you give us like an example of 2 or 3 different projects you maybe have done with the pain and the solution and why Dynamics was the platform?
I don't really like talking about technology because the first project that comes to mind, I did this with a partner and it was great. We did a CRM implementation for a yacht company in Monaco.
Okay.
And I'm a Valleys boy from South Wales that really, and Jamie and I have joked about this off this podcast, I'm very frugal. So going to Monaco was like just a completely different world. And they were a yacht company as well. So you're talking about the extreme of the extreme. And I remember them, we were on the 7th floor of their building, and they had a professional footballer walk in, they had a celebrity walk in, they had their water flown in from Fiji.
Right.
You know, there was champagne Fridays. We were going out for ridiculous meals in the evening, all facilitated by a CRM platform. It blew my mind.
Yeah.
That was my favorite project personally because of the experience. But technologically, my favorite project to date in terms of impact has been my longest serving customer at ClearAim, simply because of their values and their strategy aligned to what we wanted to deliver with CRM. It started with a very small Dynamics sales or CRM implementation for account management and sales management. And it's now not to circle back to ERP, but it is their ERP platform. They have their finance integrated. They have a customer portal. They've realized all of the benefits of the technology. You know, people say that with Excel, most people use 10% of its capability.
Yeah.
Well, the same can kind of be said for Dynamics CRM and 365. The vast amount of businesses are not really using it to its full potential. That customer, they really, but that was driven by a very tech-minded CEO and COO. So it reconfirms the things we discussed earlier. You have top-down buy-in and a good vision, and you have bottom-up buy-in, emphasized by the top-down, and a strategy, and it can fly. And that one, they really do see the benefits. And that's the thing that gave me the most pleasure, because realistically, and don't use this as a contract negotiation point, they're so technology orientated that their level of support requirements are minimal.
Yeah.
Because they bought into it. They've really, really bought into it, and they're seeing the benefits of that.
And I know that one in particular we talked about. So that's a long-term, ongoing relationship as well, isn't it? It's not an overnight, here you go, or flash in the pan. You've worked with them for, what, 8 years now?
Eight years. And they're coincidentally the customer so we've done multiple different projects on the 365 platform. It's an ongoing strategical relationship where we are their Dynamics 365 expert partner. They have a lot of internal capability. They have a very clear vision, but the product has changed 5 or 6 times from a major update perspective in the last 8 years. And that just evidences that their process, their people, the technology, it just consistently changes. So for me, a long-term partnership is most beneficial to that customer.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, perfect. So hopefully people have heard enough. They can spot the signs. They're interested. If they are, obviously we've got Dynamics 365 Cloud. What's the best way of them contacting us, you, me?
So I'm quite active on LinkedIn. So Nathan Williams on LinkedIn. Dynamics 365 Cloud website's available, .co.uk. You can email me if you want to type it out, nathan.williams@dynamics365cloud.co.uk. But really, everybody watching this will be familiar with Jamie. You tag me on LinkedIn, any means possible. You'll probably find me in the pub, so just give me a nudge if you do see me. But otherwise, any of those platforms is fine.
Perfect. And my closing tradition, which I think when I sort of gave you the questions might have been the hardest one for you to answer. Can you share with me one piece of tech, software, or an application that you'd no longer want to live without, and tell me why? So
transparently, Jamie primed me for this question, and I'm a technophobe. Don't like technology, don't like smartphones. I like chuck me in a cave, meat and 2 veg type of guy. But Deezer, the music application which centralizes podcasts and audiobooks, etc., is my go-to app. When I thought about the question, what do I use every day? I am a massive fan of music therapy. I'm a massive fan of, I wouldn't say podcasts. I don't regard myself as an intellectual. I like listening to the Stupid podcast. There's a great podcast called Off Menu with James Acaster and Ed Gamble, and they talk absolute shite. But it's a mind break from trying to run a business, from a young family, from being quite entrepreneurial and driven. It's a mind break. So Deezer is an application I use every single day just to escape the norms of this crazy world.
I've not heard of it. It sounds good, so I'll check it out. But I think it's good as well that something you use every day, it wasn't forefront of mind. And I sometimes think the best tech and apps are stuff that you don't always think about using. It just seamlessly integrates with your life. So I think sounds like a good choice to me.
Thank you very much.
And I think we've made it through the episode. Hopefully the Northern and Welsh contingent accents haven't caused the subtitle machines to explode when this goes to edit. But thank you very much for being a guest.
Thanks for having me.
That's all for this episode of the Tech Remedy podcast. I hope you found it insightful and have some useful takeaways for your business. Please don't forget to share the podcast with anybody else it may help and subscribe for future episodes to come.